We all know that book that's been sitting on our shelf. It's been placed in the background, waiting to be read. The funny thing is these books are often very well renowned, and you more than likely will enjoy it. It might even become one of your favorite books of all time. Under these circumstances, I honestly just forgot about it. This book for me is Murakami's Norwegian Woods. I bought this book a couple months ago because about 2 years ago I read Kafka on the Shore and I really enjoyed it, and as I was browsing one of my local bookstores it caught my eye and I decided to pick it up because I've been meaning to check out more of his work. I'm going to Montreal for my spring break and I thought that Norwegian Woods would be the perfect book to read over my travels. Also, it's just shy of 300 pages, so it's perfect. Is that where the name of this book comes from? Really long line. Easter's coming up. I'm officially on chapter 4. I stayed up last night and read a little bit. This book is it's very atmospheric and very beautifully written. The prose are just beautiful. The story follows a high school student named Taro who moves to the big city of Tokyo and he's studying drama. Even though he's not like uberly interested in drama, he just likes reading, and that's kind of what led him in the same direction. This book is very emotional, and a lot of these emotions stem from his high school best friend who committed suicide, and it's kind of the evolution of his relationship with his high school friend's girlfriend who also moved to Tokyo. The book is kind of set in this kind of frame story of like an older Taru kind of retelling all of his high school experiences, and it kind of follows this strange kind of stream of consciousness where it doesn't have to be completely linear, and it adds a ton of just details of the space. It really fleshes out all these characters, and it has this kind of realistic realism, but also kind of the falseness of memory. Where I'm at right now is kind of like the fallout of the relationship of Nayako, and he's kind of left hollow, and he's been sending her these letters, and it's kind of tackling this new idea of mental health where she has left college and has gone off far away and says that she can't talk to him. It's really heartbreaking, and it's a little bit of a sad book, but also nostalgic and happy at the same time. River's frozen, kinda. Climbing. That's crazy. She's dune walking. So I am on chapter 5 now, and the last 20 pages have been where he has kind of had this new connection with a different girl that's in his drama class, and her family owns a bookstore, and she went to like a private school, and she makes him lunch, and they sit on the roof and watch a fire of all things, and then it ends with him being told she's seeing someone else. I kind of thought that this girl was going to be like the new girl to kind of take his mind off of the other girl. And then the last sentence of this chapter was that he got a letter from Naoko, which he hasn't gotten for a while. Bye-bye, Montreal. So I'm going to do a little bit more reading of Norwegian Woods just to go back to the US, and I gotta say, these are some of the greatest cookies ever. They're maple cookies. Look at those. I've actually read quite a lot today. I am now on chapter 8, page 200. Yeah, it's been just really nice out, so I've just been reading, and wow, so much stuff has happened in this last chapter. These chapters are very long. The last one from chapter 6 to 7 was like 100 pages, and this book really does a good job. And I've kind of noticed up to this point that a lot of the scenes stem from two characters recalling stories, which kind of works with the frame narrative of this book being a recalled story of our main character, Toru's life in college. He goes and visits Naoko in her retreat, and he kind of gets introduced to this world, this kind of quiet world where she kind of has these simple mundane tasks that she does each day, and he meets her roommate, and they all kind of recall stories, and it really fleshes out the roommate as well. And then he gets reintroduced back to society, and he kind of has this sadness to him because now that he's away from Naoko, he has this kind of longing for her, and it kind of this world that doesn't really exist. He's missing calm, and the world is too different and loud and all this kind of stuff, and that really kind of messes him up at first. And then he meets up with Midori, who was the girl that he met up with earlier, who goes to his college and is in his class. We find out that her father didn't actually go to Uruguay, which is like a lie that she told him when they went on their date. And he's actually in a hospital. Then he spends about 20 pages or so with the father, and he kind of gains this connection with the father. And then the father ends up dying, which is very sad. And it's kind of told in this like brutal way. Like he goes and says, "Oh, I'll be back next Sunday to come and see you," and then it says literally in the next line, he died 5 days later. And it's kind of left this weird sadness in his character, in this loneliness, because Midori now isn't really reaching out to him, and it's very bittersweet, if that makes sense. But I'm excited to finish it. I'm very, very close to finishing it. I am so close to the conclusion of this book. I have 20 or 15 pages left, and I have to say, it has gotten so dark. Our main character Toru is in such a poor place in his life. It's this spring season that he's been in has just been awful for him. All these characters that were once surrounding him have all basically distanced themselves from him. With Naoko, she has gotten way worse, and all of the letters that she was sending him have kind of basically stopped, and she's doing terrible. So they had to switch her from the retreat that she was at to an actual hospital. Midori, who was the friend from his class, has basically left him completely because she's mad because he moved and didn't tell her, because he's been kind of sucked into his own world because of how badly Naoko has been doing. Then his old friend Nagasawa, who was his friend from college, has moved away, and the last time that he was with them, he was having a fight where he was kind of stuck in between him and his girlfriend, and they were at this fancy dinner and they had this big fight. Yeah, so he's kind of just in a dark place. So I guess he gets a cat at his new house, and I don't know, it's very sad, and I can really see the trajectory that this book is going to go, and I have a feeling it is going to destroy me. I can't believe that. That was so abrupt. Crazy reveal. Are you serious? That's the ending? That was so unsatisfying. It's like weirdly a cliffhanger, but not. I will say, this book was so good, and I enjoyed every second of reading it.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not like the last like 2 pages and his ending with Ryoko. That was a little bit strange. Overall, this book was fantastic and I enjoyed reading it immensely. After Naoko's death at the end, it was extremely sad and weird when he went off traveling and he had that scene with the fisherman, which was, all of it was heartbreaking, and this kind of like existential look at death was a lot of the ending, and it was really heartbreaking. And then just not finding out whether or not he is gonna be able to be with Midori, which is like basically his only hope for happiness. That whole end monologue was kind of like, you only get chances at happiness 3 times in your life, and if you miss those moments, then it could mess everything up. And we don't know, did he get this moment or not, or did he miss his chance? I've taken some time after finishing this book to fully take in the story and the ending, and I would like to preface this all by saying this is now one of my favorite books of all time. This book is nostalgia through the painful lens of the process of growing up. Within this story, there's beautiful moments of people and connection, all juxtaposed with loss and death. The narrative is raw and flawed, but we're always rooting for our lead character. We are reliving the moments of love and youth, but it's also trapped in a cycle of longing and grief. For me, the core theme in this novel is memory. Murakami suggests that while memory shapes us, we must live beyond its grasp to find meaning in the present. This entire story is set up with the frame narrative of a 37-year-old Watanabe Taru basically just recalling his collegiate years. In my opinion, this is Murakami himself, but this book doesn't say anything about it being autobiographical. Intentionally, he is pulled back to these memories through a specific song. This song is Norwegian Woods by the Beatles. The writing addressed memory and the haziness that comes with it. This comes inherently from it being a frame narrative of a 37-year-old recalling his collegiate years. Everything being told can be taken as subjective. Our narrator Taru has unique introspection, validating him as an emotional observer of the past. He is both a nostalgic and melancholic narrator. Though he has a deep connection to loss from the very beginning, we see that deep down he is a good person trying to find his way in the world. As a narrator, he just describes a world with such visceral details. You can just feel everything from the space and the characters that inhabit it. Even the seasons changing and time passing just feels so strong in this novel. His prose are simple, but just hold such a heavy emotional weight. The unique thing about Taru is what we see as the readers, and that's the fact that the relationships around him are what define him. In a story where depression, isolation, and struggling to connect with others are key emotion, he is not a self-driven character. He is shaped by the personalities of the 2 contrasting women, Midori and Naoko. Going back to memory, it has multiple layers in this story. There's the memory of those who have passed and those that are still with us but aren't always present with us all the time. Taru's friend who passed away in his senior year of high school stays with him as a figure throughout the entire novel, and Naoko is also held to the same level when she is sent away to a retreat. Both are key figures in his mind but are pushed to remembrance, compared to that of Midori, who is tangibly in front of him. Much of the scenes of this book are people walking and recalling past events, people, and feelings. Though the book is a retelling of events from memory, the story draws attention to scenes of characters walking together, recalling another layer of the story. Instead of going directly back to these memories through flashback, it adds a layer through communication of 2 characters, either through letter or spoken language, that we get these details. It is the connection of shared events and stories that draw each of the characters together. Except for Nagasawa, who is a very unique character, and I have to feel that this guy definitely existed at one point. He just feels so real, and he kind of sticks to all of his certain morals. This also fits with characters like Stormtrooper, who doesn't fit your typical character mold and kind of has all these unique personality quirks. The characters just feel real and fleshed out and make decisions that are consistent, but often these decisions are completely irrational, but they're consistent with their characters. All of the characters just feel heartbreakingly human. The book heavily recalls the 1960s, and you can just feel the soundtrack of this book, along with all of the different Beatles and different musical references that are happening, as well as different characters who are so in touch with music. They also bring up the revolution within the education systems during the 1960s. The communication systems are also uniquely 1960s. A lot of the different talking between the different characters comes from letters, which works so perfectly with the story structure because there's all these different waiting sequences in between, and that allows our characters to develop in between each of the times that they interact with each other. It just adds a lot of texture to the book and makes me feel that it wouldn't be the same in a modern time frame. This book is just so emotionally deep, and I enjoyed it so much, and I strongly recommend anyone who has not read it to read it, and I cannot wait to go back and maybe reread Kafka on the Shore, or check out some of his other works like The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles and 1Q84, which I've heard are fantastic. I just have such a high regard for this book right now.